As a young professional who is visibly gender nonconforming, I've tried to establish myself in careers time and time again and to try and gain access to jobs that could earn me a decent socioeconomic status as an LGBTQ individual who comes from a middle class background, but as somebody who's just a fledgling young adult trying to get a leg up on that social ladder, it's been a monumental task. Before finding a welcoming employer, I really struggled to fit into corporate cultures because, to be honest, most companies I tried to get my foot in the door in at echoed themes of Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 movie. But instead of a misogynist boss, I had the intimidating aspects of bro culture that I had to cater to and not question so that I could get somewhere. And so often I ended up leaving those jobs because it felt like I could never really be truly myself there. And to be honest, my full self, I don't feel was welcome in those spaces. And my integrity knew that I deserved a workplace where I could be my full self. So after a couple years in the workforce, I kind of got my sea legs a little bit, and I finally had a standard for what I was looking for in a company. Somewhere where I could bring my whole self to work. My political witted, humorous, people-centered, caring whole self to work, where I would spend 8 hours of my day. And I remember in 2018, I found WeWork. When I interviewed, I was blatant in my last interview when I looked at my would become manager, Kate, and I said to her, I have so much care and value to offer, but I need a place that will celebrate all of me and not confine me to the narrow boxes that so many others have condemned me for not fitting into neatly. And I was, of course, elated when I received a job offer after that, after much tenacity and persistence on my part in applying. And when I was hired, they asked me my pronouns on a Google intake sheet, just, typical process. But nobody in HR told my superiors what my pronouns were. And so it necessitated that I had to come out with my pronouns to all my new colleagues, which, at least to say, it was an exercise in trust. Everyone was really receptive, but they soon realized that there was a huge gap in infrastructure for actually making sure that my colleagues, one, knew what my pronouns were, which are they, them, theirs, and knew how to use them. And in fact, the fact of the matter is that I was so appreciative of their understanding and their self-awareness regarding this huge ball drop on their part, but it gave me an opportunity to have conversations with my colleagues and superiors, that I began working with them and the diversity and inclusion teams at WeWork to help focus them on infrastructure gaps and where they were in the company. And it resulted in a whole shift in our local workplace culture and it encouraged the integration of pronouns into Workday, so that hiring managers would see what their teammates' pronouns were when they were being onboarded. Slack pronoun integrations were on the way, but it took a while to integrate those, but they came. And there were other integrations that came too. And it was just by my mere existence of being outside of this norm of gender performativity that initiated these conversations with my colleagues. And I stepped up to teaching my colleagues about identities like mine. And it revealed to them where their own assumptions or unquestions of their own gender and where the gaps are in infrastructure culturally, as well as in companies' technologies, especially tech companies who are human-centered and client-facing. And so my recent leap towards my deep passion for holistic medicine to pursue a DTCM, I'm seeing a whole slew of these gaps in LGBTQ healthcare and these considerations within the alternative medicine fields. And so I'm seeking to change that too through conversation. And it is important to understand in these conversations that it's so vital to have grace with people in their learning curves, because it is not helpful to have narratives of shame centered in these conversations, but a welcoming and an invitation in. And so I'll leave you with this. Diversity and inclusion arises from the awareness of those, arise from the awareness of those identities that exist outside of the norm. And the systems of power which reflect into our social relationships want to encourage us to think that these are unchangeable or somehow natural. But nothing in life is static. And by definition, if it is, it becomes obsolete and life moves on from it because technically it's dead. And life is an evolutionary process. Language plays a role in making the invisible more visible. And by expanding and evolving our language to encompass something as simple as gender neutral pronouns into everyday language, you make space for everybody to participate and to bring their whole entire selves into all the facets of their lives. Thank you.